So here's a fascinating article from Politico. House Dems seethe over Superdelegates plan. The Democratic National Committee is set to meet this week to decide on a reform plan that would rein in superdelegates. So, when I first saw this headline, here was my interpretation. The DNC, Tom Perez, they have a meeting with a bunch of Democratic representatives, and, Tom Perez expresses that he wants to keep superdelegates, and the DNC wants to keep superdelegates, and then those Democratic representatives, led by people in the Progressive Caucus, for example, would be outraged that the Democratic Party would try to keep an undemocratic system in place, and the Democratic representatives would effectively be resisting Tom Perez from the left and saying, how dare you, man? This is what led to the loss in the first place in 2016, how much fuckery there was and how people don't trust the DNC. Boy, was I wrong in my assumption of what this article would look like. So take a look at what Democratic politicians are saying. In their view, that means elected Democratic officials who have been put into office by hundreds of thousands or even millions of constituents won't play a role in nominating their party's presidential candidate. Quote, I believe this decision, if they go forward, is going to do terrible damage to party harmony, said Representative Jerry Connolly, who raised his objections with Perez during Tuesday's dinner. It disenfranchises the elected leadership of the party. The last time we allowed that to happen was 1972, and we had the worst landslide in our history. I believe that elected officials across the country, Congress and governors, I believe they provide a ballast for the party that we very much need. Connolly added, with all due respect, says somebody who thinks we don't need it. When we haven't had it, Democrats have had disastrous results. I think this is absolutely an insult to us, said Representative Bill Pascrell. So let me explain to you what happened. Tom Perez shows up to a meeting with elites in the Democratic Party, Democratic politicians. And he says, hey, here are the two options that we're looking at with the DNC Unity and Reform Commission. One of them is, a bullshit half measure in getting rid of superdelegates. And the other thing is another bullshit half measure in getting rid of superdelegates, where in neither situation do they actually get rid of superdelegates. They just limit their impact a little bit. Okay? That's the gist of it. And these Democratic politicians are outraged not at the fact that superdelegates are still going to exist. They're outraged that Tom Perez and the DNC would have the nerve to limit the impact of superdelegates. So they're arguing, no, don't make it more democratic, make it less democratic, and allow us, the party leaders, to override the will of the people. And they're so massively out of touch that they just openly decide, I'm going to go to Politico and whine about this. As if they're taking the popular position. They were apoplectic at the idea that we might limit superdelegates' influence a little bit, but still have an undemocratic system. Man, you guys are a fucking embarrassment. Holy shit. Okay, you know what? I'm going to give you their names again because they're just embarrassing. Jerry Connolly, Democrat from Virginia. Jerry with a G, by the way. Bill Pascrell is another one. I think those are the only two that they quote in this piece, but there are other quotes in the piece as well of all Democratic politicians who were superdelegates who are like, oh, I cannot believe they think they're being disenfranchised if you limit the impact that superdelegates can have. So let me get this straight. You're being disenfranchised when you don't get to override the will of the American people. And you have the nerve to call yourself the Democratic Party? I mean, literally a more fitting name for you would be the Undemocratic Party. By the way, this is all so embarrassing. You know who's correct about this? Ro Khanna, because Ro Khanna came out and said, I don't want to do either of the things that you idiots are arguing over. I want to eliminate superdelegates. He said, I'll gladly give up my role as a superdelegate because we shouldn't have any superdelegates because as a matter of principle, we should believe in democracy and it should be one person, one vote, and whoever is chosen is chosen. But no, they come up with all these convoluted bullshit arguments where they lie to themselves. And by the way, they've also convinced themselves that, no, we'd have a better chance of winning if we get to override the will of the people democratically, who democratically pick somebody. Are you kidding me? And then they cite they have to go all the way back to fucking 1972 to come up with an example. Hey, asshole, in today's day and age, the establishment candidates are the ones who are deeply disliked. It's the populist left candidates who are the ones who are adored. So they fundamentally don't understand politics. They think, oh, if I pick the person who's less popular, then they'll have a better chance of winning. By definition, they are less popular. By definition, they have a worse chance of winning. The fuck are you talking about? Man, this is shameful. The Democrats have superdelegates. The Republicans don't. And by the way, this is a huge talking point on the right, too, because they're right when they say, oh, we don't have superdelegates. You guys do. So the Democratic Party is more undemocratic than the Republican Party. You guys should be fucking embarrassed, man. Shame on you. Shame on you. And all this, and even the idea that a bullshit half measure is okay. No, you know what's okay? Eliminating superdelegates. That's what's okay. That's it. Eliminate them. Get rid of them. No more. No more. If you want to do some bullshit thing where you technically keep them, but they are bound to the will of the people, that's fine. So in other words, they exist, but they have to vote with how the people voted. That's fine. But anything outside of that, and you can go fuck right off. And it's unbelievable that these privileged, pampered little pricks within the Democratic Party are like, oh, this is an affront and an outrage, sir, that you're trying to limit my ability to override the will of the people. You're still going to let me override the will of the people, but by golly, you're not letting me override it enough, sir. How dare you? Where's my butler? I need my butler. Fuck you guys. You guys are a goddamn embarrassment. Every single politician in the Democratic Party should be calling for the elimination of superdelegates. Not to keep it the same, not to strengthen it, not a bullshit half measure. I mean, I literally had to read this article 3 times before I was like, are they arguing what I think they're arguing for? And they are. And they're so convinced that they're keeping it real that they literally had no bones about taking their quotes to Politico and saying, let me tell you how outrageous this is. The DNC is trying to slightly limit my ability to be undemocratic and override the will of the people while still maintaining my ability to override the will of the people. I'm so oppressed. I'm so oppressed.